You wake up with a fever. You reach for a bottle in the medicine cabinet without even thinking. Swallow a pill, go back to bed, expect to feel better by morning. That's normal to you. That's obvious to you. But for almost the entire history of your species, none of that existed. No bottles, no pills, no cabinets. So what did a sick human actually do 60,000 years ago? The answer is stranger than you think. Start with a place called Shanidar Cave, tucked into the Zagros Mountains of northern Iraq. Inside it, researchers found the bones of a Neanderthal man. He was missing an arm. He was likely blind in one eye. His body showed signs of injuries so severe that alone, he never should have survived them. But he did survive. He lived for years after his injuries. Someone fed him. Someone helped him move. Someone kept him alive long after he stopped being useful for hunting or gathering. Think about that for a second. Somebody chose to care for a person who could give nothing back. Anthropologist Eric Trinkus, who studied these remains, called it evidence of a society capable of compassion. Not survival of the fittest, survival of the cared for. That single skeleton rewired how scientists thought about ancient humans. It wasn't just about strength. It wasn't just about the hunt. Somewhere in the deep past, humans learned that keeping the sick and injured alive mattered. But care is only half the story. What about treatment? What did ancient humans actually do to fight illness itself? This is where it gets stranger. Archaeologist Karen Hardy examined the dental plaque of Neanderthal remains found in Spain. Fossilized plaque. Hardened bacteria and food debris locked onto teeth for tens of thousands of years. Inside it, she found traces of chamomile and yarrow. Two plants with almost no nutritional value. Two plants that taste bitter. Two plants humans still use today for their medicinal properties. Why would a Neanderthal eat something with no calories and a bad taste? There's only one real explanation. They knew it helped. That means self-medication isn't a modern invention. It isn't even a human invention. Chimpanzees have been seen swallowing certain rough leaves whole, without chewing, to physically scrape parasites from their gut. Elephants seek out specific plants to help induce labor. If our closest animal relatives instinctively reach for medicine in nature, it makes sense our ancestors did too. So sickness, for early humans, wasn't treated with guesswork. It was treated with generations of accumulated trial and observation. Someone, at some point, got sick, ate a plant, felt better, told someone else. That knowledge passed from person to person, parent to child, tribe to tribe. Thousands of years of oral pharmacology with no textbooks, no internet, just memory. But here's the twist. Not all of it was really medicine at all. Bioarchaeologists Lorna Tilley and David Freyer developed something called the bioarchaeology of care, a framework for reading ancient skeletons not just for how someone died, but for how they were kept alive. And what they found again and again wasn't just herbal treatment. It was ritual. It was belief. Trepanation is one of the oldest known surgical practices on Earth. It involves drilling or scraping a hole directly into the skull while the person is alive. Archaeologists have found trepanned skulls from Peru to France to Russia, some over 10,000 years old. And the wild part? Many of these skulls show signs of healing, bone regrowth around the edges. That means the patient survived the surgery, sometimes for years afterward. Why would ancient humans cut a hole in someone's head? Some researchers believe it was used to treat head trauma, to relieve pressure from swelling or bleeding. But others believe it was spiritual. a way to release evil spirits believed to be causing seizures, migraines, or madness. In the ancient mind, physical illness and spiritual affliction weren't always separate categories. Sickness wasn't just biology. It was often seen as an invasion. Something bad had entered the body, and it needed a way out. That's a very different way of understanding disease than the one you grew up with. You think in terms of bacteria and viruses. Ancient humans thought in terms of imbalance, spirits, and punishment. Illness meant something had gone wrong, not just in the body, but in the relationship between a person and the unseen forces around them. So healers weren't just people who understood plants. They were often shamans, spiritual leaders who blended ritual, chanting, plant medicine, and community support into a single act of healing. The line between doctor and priest simply didn't exist yet. And this is where the real reframe happens. Modern medicine likes to think of itself as a total break from the past. Sterile, scientific, rational. But look closer, and the thread never actually broke. Aspirin's active compound comes from willow bark, used for pain relief for thousands of years before a chemist ever isolated it. Morphine traces back to opium poppies, harvested by ancient civilizations long before the word pharmacology existed. Roughly a quarter of modern pharmaceutical drugs originated from plant compounds first identified through folk and indigenous medicine. Every time you take an aspirin for a headache, you're using a distilled, purified version of something a healer somewhere figured out by trial and observation, centuries before germ theory was even a concept. Which brings us back to Shanidar Cave, and to that Neanderthal with the missing arm. His survival wasn't an accident of medicine. It was an act of community. Somebody decided his life was worth the effort. That instinct, the drive to care for the sick even when it costs something, might be older than language itself, older than agriculture, older than fire maybe. It could be one of the oldest human behaviors we have any evidence for at all. So think about that the next time you're sick. Think about it the next time you bring soup to a friend, or sit with someone in a waiting room, or simply ask, "Are you okay?" You're not performing some modern social nicety. You're repeating something your ancestors were doing tens of thousands of years before the first hospital, before the first pill, before the first written word. You reach for a bottle in the medicine cabinet without even thinking. But somewhere underneath that simple, modern act, there's a much older instinct still running. The instinct to notice someone's suffering and to do something about it.